So let's ask some help from leading Republican Senator John Barrasso to help us through this. Senator Barrasso, as always, sir, welcome to the show. I'm reading that, at least in terms of the means of financing, the pay-fors, this infrastructure package is in a lot of trouble. There's a vote, I guess, on the floor tomorrow. A lot of people, probably yourself included, Mitch McConnell, Rob Portman, don't want that vote because there's no legislative bill, there's no details, there's no meat on the bones. Help us through this, sir. What's going to happen here? What's your assessment?
Well, the bill's not going to pass tomorrow, Larry. I will tell you that's because it's not been written yet. This is Chuck Schumer using the old Nancy Pelosi line of Obamacare. First, you have to pass it before you get to find out what's in it. In terms of the pay-fors, they have removed from it this supersizing of the IRS. That's the good news. The bad news is that Chuck Schumer has said, oh, they're going to supersize the IRS and then put it on steroids to do this $3.5 trillion massive reckless tax and spending spree that the Democrats are really focused on getting done.
So I heard, let's see, Senator Tester yesterday say there were new pay-fors, but he wasn't specific. I think it was yesterday. It might have been 2 days ago. Time flies when you're having so much fun with this stuff. I was just wondering what the new pay-fors are. And, you know, I just want to know, what about using, you know, unused COVID relief monies? That's one thing. User fees. But also, Senator Barrasso, infrastructure's, you know, 10, 20, 30-year projects. Why not bond? Why not use state and local bonding, whether it's revenue bonds or general obligation bonds that would go out 20 or 30 years to match the asset? I don't get that. It seems so simple to me. Why do we need federal financing?
Well, you're right about all of it. Look, there's a lot of money that's unspent that's been promised already in coronavirus so-called relief bill. The money that Joe Biden has spent this year under that program, we know wasn't ever going for coronavirus relief. We think there's a lot of money there that could be used for true infrastructure, for roads and bridges and ports and airports and broadband. They don't want to do that. The Democrats really are focused on this high-speed train to socialism, which is their big bill, this reckless bill, and that's what they're talking about right now. That's where all of their energy is, and it's a bill that I think is going to bankrupt the country, just in terms of how radical, extreme, dangerous, scary it is, the taxes, the regulations, the spending. This is at a time, and you started by talking about inflation, Larry. Look, the American people are paying for the roof right now, for groceries, for gas. I was in Wyoming again this past weekend. Go to the gas station. Cost people $25 more to fill up their truck now than it did 6 months ago, and it's 6 months to the day since Joe Biden took the oath of office. I was at the grocery store. Prices are up. Somebody that's shopping for a week is paying about $25 more there as well. So look, even if they're getting a raise in pay, the dollars aren't going far enough to make up for what they're losing to inflation. And the American people see it. They don't like it. And now you take a look at this massive spending bill on top of it. I think that's just going to fuel inflation even more.
Well, back to the infrastructure bill, narrowly defined. What exactly, what's available to pay for this thing? Because the lack of pay-fors will sink this. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, to tell you the truth. I think it's maybe a rescuable package. I'm not sure. There's some Green New Deal stuff in there I don't like. President Trump came out against it. But, can you speculate? Do you hear anything? Rumors in the corridors? What else are they going to come up with?
Yeah, rumors in the corridors. This is the funding is being held together by, moonbeams, by cobwebs. They're working hard to come up with legitimate pay-fors. Republicans have asked about that at our policy lunch today. We're continuing to look to see what is. But when Schumer brings this to the floor for a vote tomorrow, the Republicans are all going to vote against it, even those who are part of the bipartisan process, because they want to see the language and the pay-fors before it's voted on.
All right, I get that. Fair enough. Let me move on. I'm just going to call it the big bill. We've all been alerted that there are provisions in that bill that would provide amnesty to illegal aliens, illegal immigrants. And I think we have sound on tape. We've got a SOT from President Biden yesterday. Senator Barrasso, listen to this. You may have already heard it, but take a listen.
Why do you believe that the budget bill is appropriate legislation for a pathway to citizenship?
Well, first of all, I think we need to find pathways to citizenship. The budget bill is an appropriate way to get around the filibuster to be able to make a judgment as to whether or not they should have a pathway.
You know, that is so wrong on so many counts, one hardly knows where to begin. But first of all, what is immigration doing in a budget bill, Senator Barrasso?
No, doesn't belong there. Look, we have a border crisis and an immigration crisis in this country, and it is of Joe Biden's making. This past month, 188,000 illegal immigrants to the United States. And what's his solution? It's amnesty for illegal immigrants. It's make it legal. It's make America into one big sanctuary city. And you're right. This is one of those things they're trying to hide in this reckless spending and tax bill that they're working on. And this is just this is just the tip of the iceberg, is this amnesty. Today, Chuck Schumer came to the floor of the Senate and said he wants to do a citizens climate corps because Ocasio-Cortez wants it. He's talking about having the government hire people to go and protest things like the Keystone XL pipeline and oil or gas exploration. This is mindless. The American people need to stand up, call their House member, their senators, and say, do not vote for this madness.
Budget bills are not meant to get around filibusters either. I mean, look, I'm all for legal immigrants. I reckon you are too. We have lots of reform ideas on American history and speaking English and merit rather than chain families. But budget bills are not there to get around filibusters. And I'm told, Senator Barrasso, I mean, I've seen drafts where they've allocated up to $150 billion in this big reconciliation bill for this purpose of legalizing illegals. And I don't get that at all. I don't know how Democrats support that.
No, they're on a very different approach to immigration than Republicans are. You know, about 18 of us went to the border, did a midnight patrol with the Border Patrol. The senators from Texas, Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, led the way down there. And what we saw was a border that is open. Joe Biden has sent that message to the world. It said, if you want to come to the United States, you can stay. Joe Biden, as president, has eliminated the things that we know worked in terms of the border, in terms of the border wall that President Trump was so successful in implementing, in terms of the Remain in Mexico policy. These things worked. And Joe Biden came in and reversed all of those things. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in today. Month after month after month, you have more people coming in illegally. The number of drugs that are coming in, we got drug traffickers, human traffickers, sex traffickers, all of those getting across the border because of this approach by this administration, egged on by the liberal members of their party. And the vice president of the United States, when she was running for president, wanted to eliminate immigration and custom enforcement. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country.
Well, that's the analog to defunding the police. There are a couple 100,000 illegals crossing. And, you know, there's no catch and release. There's just release. And to say they're going to make them legal in some budget bill is, I don't know, I guess it's more insanity. Last one, Senator. Tracy Stone Manning, this is one of your favorites, one of mine too. An eco-terrorist. She's up to run the Bureau of Land Management, which is a gigantic job inside the Interior Department. I take it you plan to vote against her.
Well, she's unfit for this job that she's been nominated to by President Biden. You know, she's an eco-terrorist. She lied to the Senate on her application before coming to the committee. She's unfit to run the Bureau of Land Management, which oversees 1/8 of all of the land mass in the United States. It's it's the forest, it's the wilderness area, it's the rangeland, areas used for grazing, for energy exploration, for tourism, recreation, all of those things. She was involved with a group that was actually spiking trees in a national forest, and that's booby-trapping those trees. So if a logger or a firefighter goes in and to try to cut the tree with a saw, the chainsaw, that can damage that person, kill him. Actually, look, even President Obama's director of the Bureau of Land Management, He said she is disqualified because of her past participation. Every Republican on the committee, of which I'm the ranking member, the Energy Committee, has written to President Biden saying, take her name, withdraw it. She should not be running this agency. What she has done is criminal.
As I read about it, she not only lied about investigations, she said there weren't any, of course there were, but she also lied about her own involvement. She was a planner for some of these tree spiking, if you will. Now, with all that, Senator Barrasso, how does a guy like Manchin, who's a square shooter, how does he come out and favor her? I don't get it.
Well, every senator is going to have to raise their hand and vote one way or the other. And I know that every Republican, I've talked to all 50 Republicans in the United States Senate, we are united in voting against her because of her past behavior and then lying to the Senate. That has to have consequences. If she is able to get through, and I still believe President Biden ought to withdraw her name, to get through, they're going to need all 50 Democrats and the vice president sitting in the chair to be the tiebreaker on a vote where you're going to have 50 Republicans voting against her.
You know, it's going to be one heck of an Interior Department. You have former House member Deb Haaland, who is completely opposed to fossil fuels, a complete advocate for the Green New Deal, and then some. She actually marched and picketed against the Dakota Access Pipeline, as you know. So she sits at the top of the department. And then you'd have this Stone Manning woman, who's an eco-terrorist, running the Bureau of Land Management. The Park Service wouldn't let our friend, the governor of South Dakota, run fireworks on July 4th Day. This is like the most radical department, the Interior Department. You never hear a peep from them as a rule. Now it's going to be something. Katie, bar the door.
Well, we've gone from being an energy-dominant nation in 6 months to an energy-dependent nation. And we looked at the leadership we had from President Trump, and now what we're getting from the direction of President Biden. It's a difference of night and day, and I think it's making America more vulnerable and weaker because of the policies of this administration.
All right. Senator Barrasso, you're terrific. As always, we appreciate your guidance. We appreciate your insights. We hope you'll come back soon and help us through this. Good luck.
Sure will. Thanks, Larry.
You bet.
Thank you.
Anytime.